Morning, students. How are you? Okay, fine, very good, excellent. Yes, beta. Yesterday, what we have studied? Can you tell me? Yes, what we have studied? We have studied the very interesting topic, the parts of the beautiful flower. We have studied about the parts of the flower. And what are the parts of the flower? Sepals we have studied. We have studied about the petals. Then we have studied about stamens, male part and female part. And beta, now you have to tell to me, in some flowers, if we will see, we find both stamens also and pistil also. But in some flower, only stamens are there, whereas in some flower, pistils are there. So the flowers in which both male part as well as female part, male part is stamen and female part is pistil, both are present, that flowers are known as complete flowers. And or you can say bisexual flower. Bisexual, bi means two, sexual means two sex organs. It means flowers having both stamen and pistil are called complete or bisexual flowers. Where examples you can see, if you will see the rose flowers, then you will find both parts, stamen also, pistil also. It means rose is a bisexual flower. Mustard, if you will observe the mustard flower carefully, then you will find both stamen, male part also, female part also. That is also known as bisexual flower. And the flowers which contain either pistil or either stamen, that flowers are known as incomplete flower, or you can say unisexual flowers. If you will see cucumber, then you will find either pistil or stamen. It means they are unisexual flowers. So bisexual flowers, unisexual, bisexual flowers are also known as complete flowers, whereas unisexual flowers are also known as incomplete flowers. Okay, now pollination. If you will study about the pollination, what do you mean by pollination? Beta, what happens when the wind blows? When wind blows, the pollen grains. Some flowers, pollen grains are very light, and because they are very much light, so what happens? They are easily blown away by the wind, very easily blown away by the wind. And when they are blown away, then what happens? The stigma hangs out of the flower, and feathery also. So catch the pollen. Then they catch the pollen. It means what happened? Pollens are transferred by the wind to the stigma. So in this way, this is known as pollination. Pollination means transfer of pollen grain. You know pollen grain, we have already studied. Pollen grains are fine powdery substance found on the anther. You can say pollen grains are the male gamete, contain the male gamete. It means male gamete. The transfer of pollen grain from the male anther to the female stigma is known as pollination. Transfer of pollen grain. Pollen grains means male gamete. It means transfer of male gamete to the female gamete. It is known as pollination. Now beta, it is also of two types. Pollination is also of two types. What happen? Pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma. If transfer occur of the same flower or you can say to the another flower belonging to the same plant, then it means self. Self means of the same flower. It means pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of same flower, or you can say another flower but belonging to the same plant. प्लांट सेम होना चाहिए बेटा. That is known as self pollination. That is known as self pollination. So how you can define self pollination? When pollen grains fall on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same kind, it is called self pollination. And opposite of this, when the pollen fall on the stigma of another flower of the another flower or a different plant, then it is known as cross pollination. It is known as cross pollination, as you are able to see in this diagram. In this diagram it has been shown self pollination only on the same flower, and cross pollination one flower to another flower, that is known as cross pollination, and self from in the same flower. Okay, then now there are many pollen grains can be transferred by wind, you can say by water. There are many agents. These are known as agent of pollination. Pollen grains can be transferred by wind, you can say water, insects and other animals. These are called agents of pollination. Pollination by wind, how it is possible? Beta, if the pollen grains are very much light means कि if they are easily blown by the air, in that flowers wind pollination occur by the wind method. If we will see in wheat, paddy, maize, then pollination occur by wind. The second method is pollination by water. Water, how it is possible? It is possible in aquatic plants. This method of pollination is possible generally seen in aquatic plants. What happens? The plant releases pollen grains from its anther, and the pollen grains are carried by water to the stigma of other flowers, leading to cross pollination. Hydrilla, you can see, seagrass, they are pollinated by water. And very important, and that is very much important because petals are very much colored part of the flower. And what is the function of petals? Because they are very much colored, due to their fragrance, insects are attracted towards the flowers. So that insects and you can say other animals that help in pollination. How they help in pollination? Due to brightly colored insects sit on the flower, and sweet odor also, due to sweet odor also, because it contains nectar also, and that is why insect get attracted. And what happens when an insect sits on the flowers? Pollen grains stick to its body. That pollen grains, male gametes you can say, stick to its legs when the insect sit on the flowers. And same insect, when this insect visit another flower of you can say same kind or you can say another kind, then what happen? Pollen grains get transferred to the stigma of the flowers. So in this way, transfer of male gametes occur, and this is known as pollination. This is known as pollination. What do you mean by pollination? The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. It is known as pollination. So when insects sit on the flower, what happen? Pollen grains stick to the leg of the insect, and when these insects visit another flower, then the pollen grains get transferred to the stigma of that flower. In this way, pollination occur by the by the insect. So now beta, this is very much brief now. कि pollen in the anther are the male gametes of the flowering plants. And can you tell me the female gamete? Female gamete are the ovules which are present in the ovary, and male gametes are the pollen which are present in the anther. Now pollens, when the pollens male gamete meet the ovules which are the female gamete in the ovary of the flower grows into the fruit of the plant, because ovary contains a number of ovules. Ovules are similar to the, you can say, even egg of the birds. The ovule then develop into the seed of the fruit. In this way seeds are formed. In most of the plants, after pollination, what happens? The size of the ovary increases and it changes into fruits. And the ovules which are present in the ovary, they change into seeds. Now you observe guava trees there nearby your house, or you in some houses, even your house, if guava tree is there, you can observe this process very much carefully. After pollination, what happens when the ovary increases and it changes into fruits? The ovules change into seed, sepal, petal, stamens fall off. They start falling down. Sepal also, petals also, stamens also, they start falling down. And fruit consists of an outer covering that is known as pericarp. Outer covering of the fruit is known as pericarp, and a fleshy pulp which contains the seed is developed. Seed develop into a new plant. When seed gets sufficient air, water and sunlight, then it develops into a new plant. In this way, beta, pollination occur by the wind, water, insects, and then fertilization. You can say fertilization means pollen grains when joined with the egg, female gamete, you can say, then fertilization occur, then fruit formation take place and seed formation take place. And when this seed gets sufficient air, water, sunlight, then it develops into a new plant. In this way, you can say flowers are the most beautiful part of the plant which help in the reproduction or pollination, which help in the pollination. And after pollination, fertilization occur, and then it develop into a new plant from the seed. Seeds are formed, and from the seeds new plant arises. So now we have finished this chapter, and now we will do the exercise also and question answers. And the question answer you have to write down on the fair notebook. That's all from my